Hey, not totally sure if I'm gonna upload this video, but if I do, hey, uh, just wanted to clear my head by talking to the video. Yeah, it's been a day. Kyle and I first started trying to get pregnant in April of 2017. I was in PA school at that time, and we thought, I was on track to graduate in December, so we thought it'll be due in about January. So I'll graduate, I'll pass my boards, and then I'll have a baby. And for just reasons I don't need to get into, I realized pretty quickly that I should probably take ovulation tests to, know the best timing of things. And soon realized that the ovulation tests, my body wasn't doing what it was supposed to. For anyone who doesn't know, for 1, maybe 2 days in the month, the tests are supposed to be positive, meaning you're ovulating. For me, they would become positive and then remain positive for 10 days, which is not normal. It's not right. And so I went to my gynecologist and I told her about it. And she got some blood tests, and blood tests, basically the blood test and what I was telling her about my ovulation tests. This was a few months into trying to conceive. This was probably about August at this point. Basically told her that I probably never ovulated at all. My body tries, and it just doesn't. We don't totally know why. I might have PCOS. They're not sure, which is just a disease where your body makes too many cysts on the ovaries and you have a hard time ovulating. So she started me on a medication to get me to ovulate. I did this for several months and started having ultrasounds to make sure everything looked good inside. And, it never worked. And so she referred me to a fertility specialist who I started seeing, I believe, around March of 2018. So at this point, me and Kyle have been trying almost for a year. And the fertility specialist says, maybe you have this PCOS, maybe that's why you're not ovulating. Let's do what is called IUI. It stands for intrauterine insemination. And what this is, hold on, my battery's running low. I'll be right back. Okay, so intrauterine insemination. My doc said, you and your husband are young and healthy. The oral medications made you ovulate, so, and I'd been taking the oral medications. There's my cat up there. I'd been taking the oral medications, and I'd been giving myself these shots to make sure that the eggs that I was growing were ovulating. And Gosh, that light is bright up there. I'm gonna close that. All right, that's a little bit better. So anyway, I had been taking these oral medications to stimulate the ovaries to make eggs, and then I gave myself these shots that would force the eggs to ovulate, basically, in simple terms. And it wasn't working, and it didn't really make sense why, because my only problem was that I don't ovulate. So why is it not working? So she recommended intrauterine insemination, which, sorry, my cat wants out of the room. All right, hopefully no more interruptions. Intrauterine insemination is when they take my husband's sample and I'm trying to think of a nice way to put it. They basically put it in a kind of like a turkey baster, and they put that inside the woman, and they inject the sample into her uterus so that the sperm is right in the uterus, ready to meet with the egg. It doesn't have to do any work, it's all right there. And I was told every time that you're young, you're healthy, this will probably work. We did that 5 times, and it never worked. And you have to remember that every time you try, it takes, that's your try for the month. You don't get to just try multiple times a month. That's not how the body works. And so around September of 2018, everyone's saying, we don't know why this isn't working, but let's do IVF, in vitro fertilization. I'm 25 years old, my husband is 27. I never thought that that would be something that I had to do. But I did. And that involved spending a lot of money. We'd already spent so much money at this point. That involved spending a lot of money, doing ultrasounds every 2 days. And these aren't the kind of ultrasounds that, you put the goo on the belly and look on the inside. These are ultrasounds where they stick a device inside the woman and measure her uterus from in there. So I gave myself multiple shots every night, took I don't even know how many oral medications, lots of uterus imaging studies, lots of blood tests to make sure everything was growing appropriately. And then they took the eggs out of my body, which I don't need to tell you how that works. It's a procedure. You can look it up if you want. They harvested, I think, 17 not embryos. They harvested 17 eggs off my ovaries. And they took my husband's sperm and they put them in 12 of the eggs. 5 of the 17 were too immature. Of those 12, what you do after you put the sperm in them is you have to give them 5 days to grow in the lab, in the petri dish. Of those 12, 9 survived to day 5. And so in October of 2018, I did what everyone said will work. Meanwhile, during this past year and a half at that point, I'm exaggerating when I say everyone I know is getting pregnant, but everyone I know is getting pregnant. So they put the embryo inside of me, and then they froze the remaining 8. They told me the embryos look perfect. Why wouldn't they? I'm young, I'm healthy. My husband's young and healthy. You have to continue taking your shots during this point. Even though the eggs are already made, you still have to keep taking the shots. 2 weeks later, negative pregnancy test. We were as devastated for this one as we were for all of the other negative pregnancy tests. After IVF, you have to, after the first round, after the first time they put the embryo in you, you have to give your body a month to kind of reset. So November, didn't do anything. Couldn't do it in December because of the holidays. They just couldn't work around the schedule. In January, started giving myself different shots, this time not to grow any eggs. I've got 8 more embryos, I don't need any more eggs. This time just to make sure that my uterus is healthy and that everything in my body is where it should be. On February 1st, we thawed out one frozen embryo, and it survived the thaw, and it still looked perfect. And they put that embryo in me. And now they always tell you, don't take home pregnancy tests because, you just shouldn't do that. You should wait for your blood test. There's the embryo. I took a home pregnancy test 5 days later, and it was positive. I took the kind, not the kind that tells you, positive. I took the kind that, one dark line means negative, but if another dark line appears next to it so that you have 2 lines, that means positive. And I had a very faint line, a faint second line, meaning that I was pregnant. And that doesn't mean, of course, that you're going to stay pregnant. I don't know why I kept taking pregnancy tests. I guess I was just so happy to finally see some results. And I wanted to make sure that I continued being pregnant, I guess. I shouldn't have continued taking the tests, but I did. And that second line, Thursday, got darker. Friday was really dark. Saturday was dark. And at this point, there was probably a psychological component to the fact that I was feeling very nauseous. I'm thinking, oh, I'm pregnant now, I'm nauseous. But I was feeling so nauseous. Friday and Saturday, I was so sick. And then Sunday I wasn't. And I took my pregnancy test of the day on Sunday, and it was positive, but it was a lot lighter, a lot fainter than the day before. And so Monday, I had my first blood pregnancy test, and it was positive. And they say what the number is, so above 25 basically means you're pregnant, really above 5, but let's just say above 25 means you're pregnant. My number was 43. Based on where I was at, everything that I was reading online said, this isn't the best number, but it can work. What's most important, so I took that test on Monday. What was most important was that on Wednesday, when I took the blood test again, that it doubled. That 43 turned into 90 plus. I took my test on Wednesday, and the number was 14. Meaning that I became pregnant, and I was miscarrying. It was an early miscarriage, so I didn't have to take any medications to take care of it or have any anything else done. It was just gonna pass naturally, and it did. So, leading up to that embryo, my doctor had me on these shots that you uh, are supposed to, basically, they're progesterone shots, which is a hormone which is supposed to make sure that your uterus is nice and thick and ready for the embryo to implant into. My doctor was very surprised that it didn't work, and she decided to do what is called the Yale EFT protocol, which basically means for the next month, they are going to start me on stop the shots and start some oral medications again. Well, yeah, let's just say oral medications. Let's move past that. A different kind of medication. And then they were going to basically act like they were going to put another embryo inside of me. But instead of putting an embryo inside of me, a few days before that would happen, they were going to biopsy my uterus, which is where they stick a device up your vagina into your uterus and they pull a piece out. It hurts a lot. So I had that done, and then keep taking the meds, and then a week later, biopsy the uterus again to see if anything changed in the meantime. And so that was that month. That was March. That was the rest of February and March. They sent the biopsies and they did blood tests, and they sent the biopsies and the blood tests to Yale. And Yale looked at everything and said, she's fine. Her uterus is fine. Her uterus is healthy. Her blood tests are normal. If you do this regimen again, which is again a different medication regimen than I had for the last 2 embryos, if you do this again, there is no reason it shouldn't work. But then you have to have your month off, which was the rest of March and April. That was my month off of just doing nothing, letting my body recuperate. And so last Monday, I believe it was April 29th, they put these 2 embryos. My doctor doesn't like putting more than 1 embryo into a person because you're at high risk for multiple pregnancy. Oh no, multiples. You might be pregnant with twins, and that's not the safest thing. And they just kept saying, you're probably going to get pregnant with twins. There's a 40% chance they're both going to stick, but we're putting in 2, so definitely, not definitely, but one of them's going to work. Yale said it would work. Continue having these ultrasounds of my uterus to make sure everything looks good. I keep taking the medications. I keep doing the blood tests. And this morning, I went to get my blood pregnancy test, and it was negative. And that's it. That's where I am. No one knows what's going on. I'm 25 years old, healthy. And I can't get pregnant. So anyway, there's no happy ending or anything right now. I have an appointment with my doctor on Monday, and she will talk about what's next, but what is next? What can be next? I've got 5 more embryos. But you don't know what kind of mental torment it is. They tell you not to get your hopes up, but you do. Um, Anyway, that's that. Wish us luck.